All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development program, and in particular the AWD 1111 class, I have been going through a series of video presentations that I'm creating for the AWD 1111 class for the fall 2019 semester. They're based on the textbook that we're using for the class, which, as you can see on the screen right now, is Pro ASP.NET MVC 5 and A-Press Text by Adam Freeman. We are halfway through Chapter 12, and there's 27 chapters in the text. So we're going to talk now about image uploads. And the author says here, I'm going to complete the SportScore user experience with something a little more sophisticated. I will add the ability for the administrator to upload product images and store them in the database so that they are displayed in the product catalog. This isn't something that is especially interesting or useful in its own right, but it allows me to demonstrate some important MVC framework features. Now, I'll tell you right now, I disagree with the author. All right, I think it is interesting, and I think it's unbelievably useful. Because if you're going to be going in and creating what we have here, which is basically a database-driven website that's going to attempt to sell products, kind of nice to have a picture of the products. So, open the Visual Studio Server Explorer and navigate to the products table. All right. There's our products table. The name of the data connection may have changed to be EFDB context. Yep, that's what mine did, which is the name assigned to the connection in the web.config file. Visual Studio is a little bit inconsistent about what it renames the connection. So you might see the original name as shown. Right-click on the products table and select New Query. Enter the following query. Now, this is not by any means what the author is showing you. This is not the only way to do this. All right, there are other ways. This is probably the easiest and what I would consider to at least be probably at least the most, what do we say here, intuitive way of doing it. So what are we doing? Well, once we click execute up here, okay, the system should come through and update the database. What we're doing here is we're adding 2 new columns to our database. Now, I don't know if we can do this with this open or not, but let's, products, I should have done this first. Open table definition. All right. So right now in the database, we have a name, a description, a category, and a price. We're going to add to that image data and image MIME type. All right. I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to this, click my execute button. It says the command completed successfully. I do not want to save this, so I'm going to click here. No, don't save. But now, and I'm going to refresh my database, I'm going to right mouse click, and again, I'm going to open my table definition. And now, hopefully, what we'll see in here are our 2 new fields. Notice they both do allow nulls. You may have a new product, and that new product you might not have a picture for it yet. That sure makes sense. All right. So the author says if the columns are not visible, yeah, we did it just fine. So the bottom of 316, I need to add 2 new fields to the product class that are going to map up to these fields. So we've got to go to SportScore domain, and we've got to go in, and we have to bring up our products.cs. Should make sense. We don't need to save this either, so I'm going to close that. All right. So we want to go to our domain. In fact, again, let's close a couple things here. I'll leave that login open for just a second. Close this. I'm going to go to our domain, and I'm going to open under not there. Where are we? Under entities, we're going to open up our product file. Here, now we can close this login. This down. All right. And now down at the bottom, after our category, we want to come in here and we want to add these two things. Again, because I like to do this. Don't put them there, Jeff. There we go. Okay, I did put a blank line between each one. Notice, at least as of right now, we have no data annotations. All right, it says make sure that the names of the properties that you add to the product class exactly match the names you gave to the new columns in the database. And they do, because we copied them in. The next step is to add support for handling file uploads. This involves creating a user interface that the administrator can use to upload an image. So we're going to have to modify. The author wants us to come in here, and I think I can close this now. And under our UI, the author wants us to modify under admin, close a few of the things that are in here. Here, a little easier. Under the edit, all right, got a lot of code in here, all right, and we're adding a lot of code, good, bad, or indifferent, all right. So if you're looking in here, I'm on page 317. I'm just going to go and add everything. Always kind of cringe at doing this because, you know, again, we're adding a lot of code here. But it's the author's. Hopefully it's the most up-to-date. So if I have something screwed up in mind, hopefully if I have an error or whatever, this will help fix it. All right. So the entire code on page 318. Copy that. We're still not done. And why is that? Because there is also code on page 319. All right, now this, I'm sure, has not been probably formatted the way I would like it to be formatted. Actually, so far it doesn't look too bad. Let's look in here. Okay, else, get that. Okay. So it looks like we're doing all the work in the default case. Got a div here. And it looks like we're doing a massive amount of styling right inside of here. All right. Okay, div, there's our footer. All right, looks much better than it did. How's that? So I'm jumping back here into my book. And the author says, you may already be aware that web browsers will update files properly only when the HTML form element defines the encrypt type to be multi-part form data. In other words, for a successful upload, the form element must look like this. And I think that's one of the things that we put in there earlier. All right. All right, we're going to finish up this little section in here, and then the saving the images, I'm going to try to put that into the next lesson. So, the author says, without the encrypt type, the browser will transmit only the name of the file and not the associated content, which wouldn't do us any good. To ensure that it appears, we must use the overload of the begin form helper method that looks like this. We can double check and make sure there's the begin form. So notice we do have it in there. All right. There are two other changes in the view. The first, we have replaced the razor if statement used when generating input elements with a switch. The effect is the same, but it allows me to specify the model properties to skip more concisely, and we don't want to display the image-related properties directly to the user. Would make sense. We might have things in there like file locations, etc., which we don't want to make available to people. Instead, we've made the remaining change, which is to add an input element whose type is file to allow the file upload, along with an image element to display the image associated with a project, if there is one in the database. It says the horrific mess of CSS and JavaScript addresses a shortcoming in Bootstrap. It does not properly style file input elements. There are a number of extensions that add the missing functionality, but the author decided to do it the way he did it because it's self-contained and, in his mind at least, is more reliable. It doesn't change the way the MVC framework works, just the way the elements are going to be styled. All right, so I'm going to stop here, pick it up on the bottom of page 319, which is saving images to the database. Back with that one shortly.